Welcome to this chapter where we are going to learn about Python Beginner. Python is an object-oriented, high-level programming language with the ability to create almost anything. That's why Python is one of the most undemanded programming languages in the world. During this chapter, we will learn the basics of Python, and we have practice projects and short quizzes to improve your learning experience. So the first thing we should do is to install Python. To get us started, just go on Google and search for download Python. And the first link that you see from python.org, click on it, download Python. Download the last version of it and follow the installation. It's really easy. In case you want the older versions, you can come down and here you can scroll down and find the versions that you want. And after the installation, make sure that on your VS Code, you have two extensions that we are going to need for this chapter. One of them is Python, okay, and the other one is Pylance. So to install it, simply go to your VS Code, go to the extensions here, and on the search bar here, just search for Python. Okay, here I have Python and Pylance. Okay, just install them from here, and after the installation, just restart your VS Code and you're good to go. And I have created a Python practice folder here. It's empty, so I'm going to open it here in my VS Code. So click on open and Python practice, and here it is. And the first thing that you need to do is to create a file here, practice.py. Okay, it's a Python file. And there are a couple of things that you need to make sure before we begin. Let me make it bigger. So the first thing is that at the bottom of the screen, pay attention that the selected language is on Python. If you don't see this blue bar, simply go to the View, Appearances, and the status bar should be active, okay? And that's all for this part. We're good to go. And on the next lesson, we are going to start learning Python and practice it together here, okay? So see you on the next one. All right, so in this lesson, we are going to learn how we can use Python to print into the terminal. So first of all, let's close this. And printing in Python is really easy. All you need to do is to write down print, okay? And inside the parentheses, you can call the variables that you have or write down, for example, a text. Hello world. Now, in JavaScript, when we want to print a code, it will print it into the console of a browser, but here it will print it to the terminal. So when you're done here, just save it and click on display at the top right side, and then it will open a terminal here. And if you pay attention here, it is written hello world. It is printing the code that I just wrote. So if I, for example, duplicate this and write down another text here, I'm Puya, okay. And if I print it, now we see hello world, I am Puya in 2 lines, okay? So, but what if I want to have one print command and the result I want it to be in 2 lines? How should I do that? So let me erase the second line. And there is a command that you can use. It's backward slash and n, okay? You see the color is a little different. It's more to yellow, right? So if I save this and run this code, it will print hello world. So let me just remove this space here, save it again. You see it is like this. So in Python, when you have a text, you can use backward slash and n to go to the next line, okay? I can write down, for example, 2 sentences. What's your name? Okay. And then backward slash n, okay? And then write down the answer. My name is Puya, okay? So let's print this. What's your name? My name is Puya. Here it is in the console. Now, why do we need print? Printing is really helpful. We can use it to debug our code. We can show the result of whatever we have into the terminal to see if our code is working or not. So in general, as we go forward, we are going to use print a lot. That's why I put it in the beginning of this chapter. Now, there's one thing here. In Python, indentation is really important, meaning if I just add a space here, there will be an error, okay? In other programming languages like JavaScript, HTML, CSS, wherever we write, it doesn't matter, okay? Space or enter, it doesn't matter. But here on Python, indentation, the space before the lines matter a lot, okay? So you need to be careful how you are using it, where you should use it, and if you use it in the wrong way, you will find different errors in your code, okay? But don't worry about it. As we go forward, I will tell you how it should be, okay? So that was all about this lesson. And the next part, we are going to learn about variables in Python and the different types of it. In this part, we are going to learn more about variables. We use variables on Python to store data in them, and later in our code we can use them. We can call those variables and use the value of those variables, show the values, change the values, and do many different things with it. And this is how we can create a variable in Python. It's really simple. All we need to do is to write down the name of the variable, for example, name, and set it equal to a value. For example, in this case, quotation, Puya. Now, there are different types of variables in Python. The first type that we have here is called a string. As you can see, the value will be placed inside a quotation, and we call it a string because it is like a string of letters coming one by one after each other, okay? Mostly it's a text, okay? So the second type of variables in Python is number. And numbers itself, it has two different types. The first type is integer. For example, my age is equal to 31. And integers are whole numbers. They don't have decimals. And the other type is called float. For example, my weight will be equal to 77.3 kilogram. Okay. And here we have decimals. Both of them are numbers. Okay. But the difference between them is that integers, which is this one, they don't have decimals, but floats, they have decimals, okay? And finally, we have Boolean. For example, learning is set to true, okay? And Booleans is like a switch. Either they are on or off. Either they are true or false. And if you know JavaScript, in JavaScript, when we have a Boolean, we don't write true like this. Our true starts with a small letter, okay? But here in Python, true or false must start with capital letter. False will look like this, okay? And true will be looking like this, okay? So these are the four types of variables that we have in Python, and we can, for example, print them. We can say print, okay? And inside the parentheses, I can call the name of my variable. For example, here, I'm gonna say age, okay? And then the value will be printed inside the inside the terminal, okay? So if I play it, it will be here, 31, okay? It's the value of my age. If I say, for example, weight, okay, save it and play it, it will be 77.3. And if I say, for example, learning, okay, print it, it will be true, okay? So we can call these functions, or we can assign a new value to them. For example, here age is 31. I can replace it with, for example, age equal to 26, for example, and here print age, and it will show me the updated value, right? That was all about the variables, and on the next part, we are going to learn how we can name the variables, especially when we have more than one word here, okay? So see you on the next one. So how we should name our variables. Here we have name, okay? It can be name or it can be n, right? We can name it anything, but try to select the names that later when you look at it, you understand what value you're storing here, okay? It should be understandable, or you should select it somehow that if other developers they look at your code, they understand your code easily, okay? So that is one of the rules that you have to follow. The second rule, when you have more than one word, for example, here we can say is learning. When you have more than one word, you cannot use a space here, okay? You cannot use dash, right? You cannot use dot, okay? You see, all of them are showing errors, but there are two ways that you can use more than one word. One of them is to use camel casing, meaning the second word or the words coming after that starts with a capital letter, or I myself prefer to use underline, okay? Is learning, okay? This way you can use more than one word, okay? For example, whatever. And the third rule that you need to follow is that you can use numbers inside the name as long as it is not right at the beginning. For example, if I put 1 here, it will be an error, but if I put the 1 the number wherever I want, except the beginning, it will work just fine, okay? So these are the ways that you can name your variable and the rules that you need to follow to avoid getting bugs in your code, right? So that was all about this lesson. And on the next part, we are going to learn more about commenting on Python and how we should place the comments and the different type of it, okay? So see you on the next one. In this lesson, we are going to learn how we can write a comment in our Python code. First of all, what is a comment? Comment is a piece of text, I can say, that we place it in our code, and all it does, it works as a note, okay? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't have any effect in our code. It is just a simple note. And there are two ways to write a comment in Python. The first way is to use the hash sign, and then you see it becomes green. And whatever I write here, okay, it will not have any effect in my code. If I save it and play it, nothing happens, okay? Even if I, for example, write down print, and for example, here I write down age, okay, save it and play it, we don't see anything here. But if I just remove this sign here, okay, and save and play it, we see the value, okay? So comments, they don't do anything. They're just here to remind us something, or we can deactivate part of our code using comments. So this is one of the ways that we can write a comment. And there is another way for commenting a block of code. For example, I don't want to remove this code, but I don't want it to be active as well. The way to comment them all is to add 3 quotations at the beginning and 3 quotation at the end. So if I just cut it and paste it here, you see all of them become this color. And if I just save it and play it, nothing will happen. Even if I write down, for example, print age, okay, save and play, nothing happens, okay? This is another way to create a comment. Now, why do we need to create comments? There are 3 reasons. The first one is that as we go forward, we may work on a project for different months, and after some time we come back to our code and we don't remember what is what, okay? This way we can just mark some, add some notes, okay? Here is a note, for example, to remind ourselves what we wrote here and what it was about, okay? This is reason number 1. Reason number 2 is that our code may be used by others, maybe other developers want to work on it, and this way with notes here, with the comments, we make it more understandable for others. And reason number 3 is that we can arrange our code much better, we can make it more neat, and this way whatever we are looking for, we can find it much easier with these comments, okay? So these are the main 3 reasons that why we need to add comments to our code. And the first way was with the hash sign, and the other way was using 3 quotation, okay, at the beginning and 3 quotation at the end of our comment, okay? So that was all about comments. And on the next part, we are going to learn about variables and input. So see you on the next lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn more about input. So let me remove whatever we wrote till now. So for example, if I want to ask a question from my user, for example, write down print and what's your name? Okay, if I want to ask this question from my user, if I save it and run this code, here we can see the question, but there is no way that I can answer it. And when you see this line of code here, it means that our code is executed and it's done, okay? It's not waiting for us to add a response. In this case, instead of a print, we need to use input, okay? So if I just simply replace print with input, and inside the parentheses, I ask my question, save it and run it. Now here you see it is asking me a question and I can answer it. Okay, what's your name? I can say Puya, okay, and press enter. And now when I press enter, the code will be executed and it will not keep running, right? So I can use input to ask question from my user. I can add backward /n here as well. Let me show you what will happen. Now, instead of writing in front of it, I can write it in the next line, okay? Now, here is a practice for you. The objective of this practice is to ask user's age and store it in a variable, then print I am, for example, 20, 30, the age that the user add. I am 20 years old too in the terminal, okay? So here are the steps. Create a variable and set it equal to the input and then ask your question. And the second step is to print the string above, this one here, I am, for example, whatever age the user wrote down, years old too. Print that as a string and place the age that user wrote, this one, in between the string, okay? You may need to search how you can add different strings to each other in Python and print it, okay? You may need to search that on Google, all right? So that was all for this practice. Pause the video and try completing this challenge. So how was it? Did you manage to complete this challenge? So let's do it together. The first step is to create a variable. I'm going to say, for example, age is equal to input. What's your name? And then the value that we write here will be stored here inside the age, okay? Then we have to say print, and inside the parentheses, add I am, okay? Add a space here, and then add plus, age, then another plus, years old too, okay? So let's save this and let's run it. What's your name? Oh, I have to change it to how old are you? So how old are you? Okay. So let's save it and let's run it again. So how old are you? I'm 31. Okay. And here is the printing message. I am 31 years old too. Okay. So that was how you could complete this challenge. I think it was simple. And sometimes you need to search a little on Google to find some answers that you need to complete the challenge, all right? So that was all for this lesson. And the next part, we are going to have a cool practice. So see you in the next one. Welcome to this practice. A major part of programming is to get good at searching. So here's a practice for you that requires a little searching for one of the steps. So the objective of this practice is to ask user's name and then print how many letters their name has. So the first step is to create a variable and then set it equal to the input and ask the user's name. And then for the second step, search about how to count the letters in a word using Python. And finally, print the value of the counting in the terminal, okay? It's that simple. All you need to do is to use what we have learned till now and do a little searching. So pause the video and give it a go. All right, so let's complete this challenge together. So the first thing that we need to do is to ask the user's name. So I'm going to mention name equal to input. And inside parentheses, I'm going to ask my question. What's your name? And I'm going to set the answer in the next line, okay? And then the next thing that I have to do is to create another variable called count and set it equal to the counting of the result of what my user wrote as their name. So I'm gonna write down len in the parentheses, we're gonna have name, okay? So this code here, whatever, when you write len and inside parentheses, whatever you write here, it will count the letters that exist in that string, right? So this will count it. And then I'm going to write down print, and inside parentheses, I'm going to write down count, okay? So let's save it and play it. And here it's asking us what's our name. I'm going to mention, for example, Puya, and it says 5. I can say, for example, let's try with another name, for example, Nika, 4, right? Sarina, right? 6, okay? So that was how you could complete this challenge. It was very simple. All you need to do is to find how you can count the letters inside in a string, right? So that was all for this lesson. And on the next part, we are going to learn more about data type and conversions. In the previous practice, we wrote a code that asks the user's name and then tell us how many characters, how many letters their name has. So at the end, we wrote down print the count, okay, the number of letters that their name has. But what if we want to write down, for example, your name has 5 characters? How we can do that? So let's try it out. So I'm going to write down quotation and then your name has space, and here I'm going to add plus and then count and then again plus and again quotation, and here I'm going to write down characters. Okay, so your name has, for example, how many number characters. Now if I save this and play it and write down, for example, Puya here as my name, it gives me an error. Okay, it's something about a string and integer, right? So let's check the type of our variable. So I'm going to come here and write down print, and inside print I'm going to say type, and inside parentheses I'm going to mention count, and I'm going to duplicate this to also check the type of my name as well. So the first one will be name, the input that the user wrote, and then the count. So save it and play, and here I'm going to write down Puya. And if we come up here, you see the first one, which is our name, it is a string, and the second one, which we counted the letters, the characters inside our name, is an integer. That is why it cannot add them together, because the type of, for example, the first one and the last part of our text is a string, and here the middle part is an integer. So we need to convert count before we can add it here. So we have to convert it to a string. How we can do that? It's very simple. We can say count is equal to str, and then inside it write down count. Okay, so we get the count and we convert it to a string and set it again equal to count. So if I do this and play and write down Puya, then it will show me your name has 5 characters. Now all of them are a string. Now there's another shorter way to do so, is that remove this line, and here before len write down str, and then inside parentheses have your len. Okay, save it, play, and here I'm going to write down Puya, and again your name has 5 characters as well. Now you can convert it to other things as well. For example, let's say here we have a variable, and I'm going to call it float equal to, for example, 77.3, and let's print it. Let's print float, and then after that, if I want to convert this float to an integer, I'm gonna say, for example, float equal to int float inside the parentheses. Okay, and then let's print it again and see how it will look. So let's save it, and let's pass the first part of our code, and here it is. This is our first float, which has decimals, and when I convert it to an integer, the decimals are gone now. Okay, and we have a whole complete number, right? And we can do it vice versa. For example, let's say here we have an integer. Okay, I'm gonna replace the name. Let's say, for example, number, right? Let's replace float with number. Okay, and here instead of int I can say float. Okay, I changed the name because we had float, and here it would make a mistake. So we shouldn't select these type of names, but I'm just using these names to make it clear for you what's the type. And if I save this, and here after instead of printing the number, I print the type of it, I can come and say, for example, type and parentheses number. If I save this, and let me remove the first part and play it, and here we have the class, the type of our variable is float. Okay, and if I do it before we change it, let's save it, run it again, it was int, now it is float. So that was how you could convert different type of variables to another type. All right, so that was all for this lesson, and on the next part we're going to learn more about operators. In this lesson, we are going to learn more about Python operators, which we divide them into different sections, like arithmetic operators, assignment operators, and comparison operators. So let's start with the first one, arithmetic operators. We use them with numeric values to perform common mathematical operations. So let's have a look at what we have here. For example, 3 plus 2, okay? And we can put it inside a print, okay, and see the value. So if I play it, here it is written 5, okay? So this is the first arithmetic operator. We also have subtract, and if you play it, we get 1. We also have multiply, which we use asterisk sign or a star to perform that. Play, it's 6. And then we have, for example, let's say 4 divided by 2. And for divide, we use forward slash, which give us 2. And if you pay attention, for the rest of the numbers, we got the complete number, like 5, okay, like 6. But here, when we use division, we get 2.0, meaning it is giving us a float. So if I just write down type and put this inside another parenthesis to check the type of this operation, it gives me a float. But if it was, for example, subtract, if I run it, it will give us integer. It is just a side note that you need to pay attention. The next one is modular. For example, let's say we have 9, and we use this sign for the modular, and let's say 4. This will give us the remainder. Here we have to say how many 4s do we have inside a 9. We have 2, right? So 2 times 4 will be 8, and then you have to subtract 9 from 8 and see how much it will remain, okay? So the result of this will be 1, okay? So 1 will remain. The next operator, mathematical operator, is exponent. So we can say, for example, 2 exponent 3, and we use 2 times asterisk or star sign, and it means 2 to the power of 3, meaning in the math it will look like this: 2 multiply 2 multiply 2, okay? It will look like this, and the result should be 2 times 2 will be 4, 2 times 4 will be 8, so it will give us 8. And finally, for the last one, we have floor division, and we use 2 forward slash. Now, floor division is for when we divide two numbers that the result will not be a whole number. So this will round it down. So for example, let's say if we have, let's say 6 divided, let's make it divide by 3, it will be 2, right? But if, for example, we use, let's say 4, okay, if we divide 6 by 4, it will be 1.5. But if I use floor division, okay, it means that it will get this number and then it will round it down. So we should get 1, okay? So this is the result. So if I use, for example, 9 and let's say 2, we will get 4. But if we divide it, we will get 4.5. Okay, so it will round this number to 4. So these were the arithmetic operators that we have on Python. That is why Python is the favorite language for mathematicians, because there are a lot of things that they can do with it. And one thing that I want you to pay attention is the priority here, okay? Because as you go forward, if you create a formula on your website to do something, to calculate a number, for example, if you don't follow the right priority in math, you are going to have problem. So for example, let's say we have several numbers that we want to calculate. For example, 2 multiply parentheses, and let's say, for example, 4 plus 3, and then outside of the parentheses, let's say we have minus 10. And let's have a division here as well. For example, let's say plus 30 divided by, let's say, 3, okay? So let's say we have an operation like this, and you should know which one will be done first. For example, here, do we do the sum for these two numbers first, or do we divide 30 by 3 first, okay? So let's have a practice. Pause the video and try to guess the answer of this equation. So to know the answer, first you need to know about priority. And here, the priority is with parentheses. So everywhere that we have parentheses, they go first, okay? So here we have 4 plus 3, it will be 7. And after the parentheses, the priority comes with multiply and division, okay? And after that, we'll go for plus and subtract, okay? So the way it works, it will be like this, that we have parentheses first, then we have multiply and division, and after that we will have sum and subtract. Okay, and we start from left to right, so it doesn't matter. For example, here we have multiply and here we have division. If you just switch the place, it doesn't matter if it will start from this side. Okay, so if we run this code, the answer will be 14. Now, the thing is that if it is hard for you to find or understand the steps, there is a software that you can use, which is called Thonny. Okay, it's written like this, thonny.org. You can go there and download this software for yourself. You can install it on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's very easy. Just follow the steps and install it. And here it is. You can place any Python code that you want, and it will execute the code and show you the steps. So if I come here and just copy this code and bring it here, okay, and play it, then we get the same result, 14, as we got here. And if I just stop it and click on this debug current script, okay, it will show me the steps. Here you see you can press F7 or a step into, click on this sign. Okay, it will go forward a step by step. So it gets this code first. We have a print here. Then inside the parentheses, we have this code. And then it gets the first part. Okay, go for the next part. And so we have a 2 here multiplied by this parentheses. And the parentheses goes first. So it will calculate what we have inside the parentheses. 4 plus 3. It will be 7. So 2 multiply 7, it will be 14. Then we have minus 10. Okay, so it will be 4. Then we have plus, and under the other side of plus, we have 30 divided by 3. And this will be 10. Okay, so we are going to have 14. Okay, so this is how the code was done, and these were the steps. So if you have any issue about the steps of a code get executed, not only about the mathematics here, about any other things that we do on Python, you can just paste the code here in Thonny and follow the steps. Okay, so this was about the arithmetic operators. So quickly, let's learn more about the other operators that we have. The next type of operator that we have is called assignment operators. We call it assignment because we assign a value to a variable. The first thing that we have is equal. Okay, for example, x equal 3, right? This is called assignment operator. We also have x plus equal, for example, 2. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that x equal to x plus 2. Okay, so whenever you see plus equal, it means that we get the same value that we have for this variable, and then we plus this amount to it. Okay, so if I just want to print this, I write down print, and inside the parentheses I write down x. So x was 3 at first to it. Okay, so if I play it, we get 5. Okay, if I do this, for example, 2 more times, it will be 7, and then it will be 9. Okay, you see here it is 9. So this was the second assignment operator. We also have minus equal and multiply equal and divide equal. You know the meaning, right? We get the same value and then we divide it into this number. For example, here if we have, for example, 20, and then here we write divide equal 2, it means that 20 divided by 2, which will be 10. Okay, so here is what we got. And the next type is called comparison operator. So let's say here we have x, it's equal to 20, and let's say we want to compare this x to another value. Let's say if we want to see it is equal to 20. Okay, so x is 20 and we are it gives me true. It means that yes, these two numbers are equal to each other. But here if I write down, for example, 30, if I play, now it's false. Okay, so the comparison operators more or less give us a value of a true or false in a print or in other situations, which later we will get to it. Okay, so this is the first comparison operator. We also have not equal, which we use exclamation mark and equal. So x is not equal to 30. It should be true, right? Because x is 20 and we are comparing it to 30 and they're not equal, so we get true. And the next one is greater than. Okay, so x greater than 30. And here x is less than 30 and the result should be false. And we also have less than, which here it should be true because x is less than 30. And we also have greater than or equal, okay? So if let's say we have 20 here and both numbers are 20, and if I do this, it will be true because x is greater than or equal to 20. This line will be true. And we also have less than or equal to 20, okay? And this will be also true because x is equal to 20, and here it is true. So that was all about Python operators, and to make your work easier, I added a PDF to the resources of this lesson. You can click on the resources and download this PDF. And here, for example, we have Python arithmetic operators, and here are the operators that we have, and there are some examples here. If you forget what they do, you can take a look at it here, or you can click on try it. It will open W3 schools and show you the examples for it, okay? So it's really useful. And here we also have Python assignment operators. It goes the same way. And there are more Python assignment operators I didn't mention. I didn't want to make you confused right now. And we also here we have comparison operators, and there's another type which is called logical operators, which later we will get to it. Okay, so that was all about Python operators. If it was difficult for you, you can take a look at this PDF and go through the examples, or click on try it and see some examples in action. So that was all, and see you on the next lesson. Earlier in the course, we had a practice where we wanted to use an integer inside a print side by side and a string. And we got an error, right? We got a type error. And we learned that we have to convert that number into a string to be able to print it there. But as we go forward in our projects, we may have a lot of different variables that needs to be side by side in a string, and it will be really hard and difficult to every time convert that variable value into a string. So here we are going to use fstring to make our work much easier. I'm going to create different kind of variables here. So we have an integer already. Let's create a float. Num float, for example, equal to, let's say, 12.5. And also let's have a boolean is, for example, working, set to true. Okay. And finally, let's have a string as well. My name equal to Puya. Okay. So these are 4 type of variables that we want to use inside the print side by side a string. It could be better if we could just place our variable here inside the string. So let me just complete this string by writing down, for example, integer, and then let's go for the next line and write down float. Okay, and then next line we are gonna have a boolean. Okay, and then next line we are going to have a string. Okay, so these are the 4 type of variables that we have here, and I want to place these variables inside my string using fstring. Now fstring give me this ability to place the variable values inside my string without any errors. So all you need to do is to add f before the string. Now the f here will convert all of it to an fstring, and then we will have the ability to place our variable inside the string by using curly brackets, and then inside the curly brackets we need to call our variable. So here we have float. Okay, let's add that. Then we have a boolean. Let's add that as well. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you see everything. And then we have a string here, which will be the last part. So save it and play it. So here we have, for integer, we have 20, which is the value of our variable num here. Then we have float, and for the value we have 12.5, and then we have a boolean which is true. Okay, here it is, boolean is working, and is working is true. And finally we have a string which is just showing the value of this variable, whatever it is, even if it is a string. Okay, so this is how an fstring works. It really make our work much easier in the long run when we want to do different tasks and we want to use some string with some other variables and show the value of that variables. Fstring really comes handy. Okay, so that was all about f-string, and on the next part we are going to have an amazing practice together. So see you on the next one. Welcome to this practice. In this part, we are going to calculate the break-even point of a business.
You might do $1 million in sales this year. Will you make any money on that $1 million?
No, we will not. We will lose about 300,000, and then next year we will break even. Break even.
What is break-even point? It is a point in business where the money you spend is equal to the money you make, and after that, how much more you sell, it will be your profit. So for example, if our product is coffee, we should know how many coffee we must sell every month to pass the break-even point, and after that we make profit. So here is a formula for calculating break-even point. Break-even point is equal to fixed cost that we have on our business divided by sales price per unit minus cost per unit. So for example, if we want to calculate the break-even point in a month, we have to know what are our fixed costs like rent, like employees' salary and so on, and divide that number to the sales price per unit. For example, if we sell this coffee $2, here we write down 2, minus the cost per unit, how much we spend to create this coffee. For example, $1. Okay, so here we write down 2 minus 1. Okay, so here is our practice. Imagine you rented a shop for $2,500 per month and you sell coffee. Each coffee costs 1.40 cents for you and you sell it for $2.95. Okay, and this is your objective in this challenge. Calculate the break-even point for every month. The steps are: create variables for each given price, for example, $2,500, $1.40, $2.95. Create variables for each of them, and then use the formula to calculate the break-even point, and finally print the result using f-string like the example that we have below. So in the terminal, we should see something like this. You need to sell approximately this many, for example, cups of coffee each month to break even. Okay, we need to see something like this with the exact number that we pass the break even point in the terminal. Okay, so if you're ready, pause the video and begin the challenge. Alright, so how was it? Did you manage to complete this challenge? Let's do it together. So here is our rent, which it was $2,500. Okay, we have it as an integer. Then we have our coffee price. Let me write it down, coffee underscore price, okay, which was equal to $2.95. Okay, this is the price that we sell it. Now here we need another variable, that how much each coffee costs for us to make it. So let's write down coffee underscore cost, okay, and set it equal to 1.40 cents or 1.4. They are both the same. So let's calculate the break-even point. Let's create a variable here, break-even point, okay, and we have to set it equal to the fixed cost that we have, that here it is rent, and divide it to the subtraction of coffee price, okay, minus coffee cost, okay. So this will give us the break-even point. Now let me just print it quickly to show you how it will look. Break-even point, and if I just play it, now here we get some float number, okay, it's a little bit crazy. Now we need to round this number to understand how many cups of coffee we have to sell to pass the break-even point. So to do that, I'm going to place all of these inside parentheses, and before that I'm going to write down round to round the number. Okay, so if I press play now, I get 1613. Okay, it's just 13. Before it was 12. Now it rounded it to this number. Now let's use f-string to print this number. Okay, so we have to write down F, then quotation, and write down you need to sell approximately. Okay, and here we need to use our variable break-even point, approximately this many cups of coffee to pass the break-even point. Okay, so this is our F string, and I use my variable here, and let's play it. And this is what we see in the console, in the terminal here. So let me just remove this, see it all in one line. You need to sell approximately 1,613 cups of coffee to pass the break-even point. So now we know in this example, we need to sell this many cups of coffee to start to make a profit. After we sell 1,600 cups of coffee, then we begin to make some money for ourselves. Okay, so this is really important in a business, to calculate the break-even point before you begin the business, or after a couple of months running the business, to find out if your business is profitable or not. So I hope you enjoyed this practice, and on the next part we are going to learn more about conditional statement. See you on the next one. Welcome to this part. In this lesson we are going to learn more about conditional statement, or we can call it also if statement. Now, why do we need it? If statement make our code much smarter. It gives this ability to our code to make a decision based on the different situations that it may has. So here is the structure of an if statement. We started by writing down if, and then we will have our condition, and after the condition we will have colon. Now this condition here can be a boolean to set it to true or false, or it can be a comparison, like if x is greater than 10, for example. Okay, then after the colon we will have the code that we want it to be executed if the condition is true. So we go to the next line and write whatever the code we want it to be executed. Okay, and it is really important to make the code inside the if statement indented. Okay, it shouldn't start from the same place. Okay, it should be indented. The reason is because if both of them start from the same place, you're going to have error. Then after that we are going to have our else statement. Okay, so we write down else and colon, and then after that, same as before, we write down the code that we want it to be executed here. So if the condition is true, then the code will go ahead and execute the code inside the if statement. But if the condition is false, it will skip that code and go to the else statement and then execute the code inside else statement. Okay, so let's go to VS Code and practice it. So as our first step, let's create a boolean here, condition. Okay, I'm just calling it condition as an example. You can name it whatever you want, and let's set it to true, and then write down if condition, okay, colon, and then you see when I press enter itself, it will do the indentation. Okay, so you need to pay attention to this part. And then I'm going to write down print. For example, let's write down it is true. Okay, and then let's create an else statement. I have to start the else statement from the same place that I wrote down if. Okay, and again the next line will be indented. Then write down print, for example, it is false. Okay, so this is our code, and if I just play it, it will write down it is true because the condition is true. Then it will come here to our if statement, then the condition is true, so it will go ahead and execute the code here, and because this was true, it will skip the rest of the if statement. Okay, but if the condition is false, okay, if I play this, now it will write down it is false. It comes here to the if statement, then the condition is false. Because it is false, it will skip the code inside it, and then it will go for the next line, which we have else statement, and then it will execute this line. Okay, so this is how if a statement works. Let's practice with one more example. Some people have this problem. when they really enjoy their work, they usually forget to eat. I'm one of them. So let's write a code to remind to these people, same as me, that I need to eat, right? So here is how it should begin. Let's create a variable called hours, okay? How many hours we didn't eat anything. And here I'm going to write down input, okay? To get this number by asking this question from the user that, for example, how many hours passed from the last time you ate. Okay, so we have our input here and we get this value and store it in the variable hours, and we say if hours is greater than or equal 5, then colon, okay, go ahead and print this statement, order some food now, okay, and let's come here, write down else and colon, then write down print inside quotation, keep working. Okay, right, so here's how it works. If we press play, it asks us about how many hours passed from the last time we ate. For example, let's say 3 hours. Then it gives us a type error. Okay, so do you know how to fix this error? If yes, pause the video and fix it. All right, let's do it together. The reason is because here we have an input, and the input here is a string. We need to convert that into a number, into an integer, so we can compare it with another number. So what I have to do is to put it inside the parentheses and write down int here. And let's come at the end of the line and add another parenthesis. And now if we press play, and if we say, for example, it is 3 hours, then it tells us to keep working. Okay, and if I do it again and write down, for example, 5 hours, it will give us order some food now. Okay, so this was how if a statement works. On the next part, we're going to learn more about Elif and nested conditions. So see you on the next one. Welcome to the next lesson. During the previous part, we learned about a conditional statement, and we had a practice about how many hours have passed since we ate, and based on the numbers that the user gave, we give some instructions that what the user should do to order food or keep working. Now, what if we want to have more conditions? Okay, what if, for example, let's say 3 hours passed and we have some time to cook food instead of ordering it, right? So what we should do then? Let me just make it smaller. And to do so, we need to use Elif. And the way it works is that we come here, and on the same place, we started from the same place that we started if and else, we write down Elif, okay? And then in front of it, we need to write down our condition, which here it will be, for example, hours is greater than or equal 3, okay? And then colon. And after that, we need to write down, for example, print, and inside quotation, we need to write down, you better start cooking now, okay? So here is how it works. If it is more than 5 hours, then we have to order food. If it is between 3 hours to 5 hours, we have to, we can start cooking. Else, if it is less than 3 hours, we can keep working, okay? So if I just play it and write down, for example, 4, it will show you better start cooking now, okay? Now, what if we want to order food, but we don't have enough cash? We need another if statement here inside the first if statement. To the second if statement that we will have here, we call nested condition. Now, here's how it works. We need to ask our user how much money he or she has. So I'm going to write down cash equal int inside the parentheses input, okay? And then again, inside parentheses, how much money do you have? Okay, so based on this here, now we create our if statement. If cash, for example, is greater than or equal 10, colon, then we have to, for example, we can order. So I'm going to just paste it here. And else, I'm going to write down print, and inside quotation, sorry, no food for you today. Okay, let's add a sad face as well. Right, so let's save it and play it. And here, let's say, for example, we have, for example, 5 hours passed, and it asks us how much money do we have. And let's say, for example, we have $15. Okay, order some food now. Now let's do it again. Okay, let's play it again. And let's write down, for example, 6 hours passed. And how much money do you have? We have, for example, $9. Sorry, no food for you today. Okay, so to this if statement that came inside another if statement, we call nested condition. And if you want to have more than one condition inside an if statement, we can use Elif. Okay, and there is no limit here. Okay, we can use, for example, 10, 20 Elif as much as we want. All right, so that was all about this lesson. And on the next part, we are going to have a practice. So see you on the next one. Welcome to this challenge. In this part, we are going to practice what we have learned till now in Python. So a shop will give a discount of 5% if the purchase amount is over $200 and 15% discount if the purchase is over $500. So we have a shop, and if the purchase amount is over $200, we give 5% discount, and if the purchase amount is over $500, we give 15% discount. Okay, to make the work much easier, let's say we only have one type of product, okay, and the cost for that product is $50, right? Now here is the objective of this challenge. Calculate the cost based on how many products the customer purchased. And here are the steps. Use input to find out how many products was bought by the customer. Okay, then use the if statement to calculate the discounted amount, and finally, based on the discounted amount, print the total cost and the discounted amount together. So in the terminal, we should see something like this. The cost is, for example, this much dollar minus this much dollar discount. Okay, so if you're ready, pause the video and give it a go. Alright, so how was it? Did you manage to complete this challenge by yourself? I hope so. Let's do it together as well. So the first thing that we need as our first step is to find out how many products the customer want to order. So let's create a variable called quantity. Okay, and let's set it equal to an integer, and inside it let's have an input. Okay, and then here let's ask our question. How many products will you order? Okay, so here in this part we get the quantity as an integer, and then we will have our cost, which is equal to quantity multiply by 50, because the cost of each product is $50. Now here we need to have an if statement. If cost is greater or equal to $500, for example, then we have colon, and then we will have to calculate the discounted amount, right? So let's write down discount is equal to cost divided by 100, and then we need to multiply this amount. Okay, let's multiply it by 15. Okay, so if the cost is more than $500, we have to give 15% discount. We can write it this way as well. Okay, you can multiply the cost. Let me write it this way: cost multiply by 0.15. Okay, both of them give you the same result. Okay, so this will be our discounted price, and let's print inside the quotation. We are going to have an F string, so let's put the F before the quotation. Write down the cost is $, and here we need to write down the cost. Okay, and let's write down minus again $, and inside the curly brackets let's write down discount. Okay, so if the cost is more than 500, these codes will be executed, then we need to have an elif, okay? Elif, the cost is, let's say, greater than or equal to $200. Then we're going to have colon, and let's calculate discount. We're going to have the same thing here, but with different numbers. Instead of 15, we're going to have 5, or multiplied by 0.05, okay? And then we'll print the same thing, and let's have an else. If the cost is less than $200, there will be no discount, right? So we don't need to calculate it, and all we need to do here is to just write down the cost, okay? So let's save it and let's run it, and it asks us how many products do we want to order. Let's say, for example, we want to order 12 products. So the cost will be $600 minus $90 discount. So I forgot to write down discount here. Discount. Okay. Let's add discount here as well. And one other thing here, it is written as a float. We can convert it to an int as well if we want to. So let's write down int. Okay. Here as well. Parentheses and then int. Right. So let's save it. And let's run it again. So let's have, for example, 13, okay? And then we have $650 is our cost minus $97 discount, okay? And we can also have another print at the end to show us exactly how much the user need to pay. So let's add that as well. Let's print f a string, you need to pay, okay? And inside curly bracket, we can do the calculation here, okay? Let's add the dollar before the curly brackets. And inside the curly brackets, we can write down cost minus discount, okay? So here we will do the calculation, right? And then it will show how much in general the user need to pay. So let's add it here as well, and let's run it. And this time, let's try the 200. For example, let's say we order 5 products, okay, and the cost, it will be $250 and the discount will be $12, so we need to pay $237.50, okay? So the code works, and let's also try it for less than that number. Let's say we order 2, we need to pay $100, right? Because there will be no discount, okay? So that was all about this practice. I hope you enjoy it, and on the next part, we are going to talk about logical operators, okay? See you on the next lesson. Welcome to the next lesson. Earlier in the course, we had a lesson about operator, where we talked about arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators, and also I mentioned that there is another type of operator, which later we'll talk about it, which was called logical operator. And here in this lesson, we're going to talk about logical operators, okay? So we have 3 logical operators, and they are and, or, and not, okay? These are the 3 logical operators that comes really handy when we want to use conditional statement, okay? And you use logical operators to narrow down the situation. For example, here we can say, we will give this kind of discount if the member is new. So we can have another variable here and call it, for example, membership, okay? And let's set it equal to new, right? And here we can say we will give 15% discount if the user order more than $500 and also they are our new members. So I can write down and membership, okay, is equal to new, right? So we check the membership if it was new, and if the cost was more than $500, then it will go ahead and execute this code. So let's play it, and let's say I ordered 20 products, okay? So the total cost will be $1,000, okay, and we have $150 discount as our 15%, and we have to only pay $850, okay? So this condition was true. Let's say the membership is old. Now let's play it again, and let's say We ordered 20 products, okay? Now, because our membership was old, it didn't execute this line. This condition was false, and it went down to our Elif, which it was more than $200. So we spent more than $200, and it gave us $50 discount as 5%, okay? So this was how you could use and. Let's try or as well. For example, we can say if you spend more than $500, or if your membership is VIP, okay? So if you are VIP member, anyway you get 15% discount, okay? So if when we say or, if one of these conditions is true, it will go ahead and execute the code. When we say and, both of these conditions must be true to go ahead and execute the code, okay? So this is the difference between and or. On and, both conditions must be true. When we have or, only one of the conditions must be true. Either spend more than $500 or be VIP. So I will show you how it works. So if we buy 2 products, meaning we spend $100, we still get 15% discount because our membership is VIP, okay? So even though that we didn't spend a lot of money, we spent only $100, we got 15% discount. And finally, we have not, okay? So let me just show you. Let's remove this. We can add a not here, right? So this not here will negative the condition. So here, if we said the cost should be more than $500, when we add not, it means it should be less than 500, okay? So if we say not less than $500, if we save it and play it again, and I order 12 products, we get the same code. This part will be executed because the cost is not less than $500, okay? It is more than that, okay? So it will go ahead and execute this code, okay? So these were the 3 logical operator, and that was all about this lesson. So on the next part, we're going to talk about lists on Python. So see you on the next part.